Yo, what's up guys, my name's ePower and welcome to my YouTube channel. If you guys are enjoying the video so far, please give this video a like and consider subscribing to my channel, as I'll be making more guides and showcases like this one. So as you guys just saw, I was able to land some pretty ridiculous numbers with Diluc. Diluc is easily one of my favorite characters in this game, so I figured that was about time that I made a guide and a showcase video on him. He deserves it. Throughout the rest of this video, I'm going to be talking about some general information about him, his skills, his best weapon choices, artifacts, as well as some general team compositions. So with all that being said, just sit back, relax, and enjoy the rest of this video. Alright, so let's talk about a few things here first of all. So I got Diluc pretty early on in playing Genshin, and ever since that, he has been a staple on my team. He's a crazy good main damage dealer, and when he's paired up with the right supports, he's pretty much unstoppable. So let's talk about a few basic things as well. Diluc has a natural high crit base rates due to the fact that each time he ascends, he gains crit rates. After the 6th ascension, he's going to have a base crit rate of 24.2%, which is insane. And why is this so good? Well, pretty much this means that you can run a crit damage artifact on his crown spot instead of a crit rate crown. And this is going to give him so much more damage without sacrificing too much crit rates. So just a few more other things to note. Diluc is a pyro character, obviously, and you guys are going to need to farm the pyro plant boss for his ascension materials. With that being said too, he requires small lamp grasses as well as these lieutenant's insignias to ascend. Moving on, let's talk about his attacks and skills. His first skill is pretty self-explanatory. It's a 4-chain attack combo where the first 2 hits are going to be doing very similar damage, and then the 3rd and 4th hit will deal a lot more. When you hold down his attack, he's going to begin doing a charged attack sequence, and once you let go of the attack button, he's going to do a final hit which can also knock monsters down. And of course, like many other characters in this game, he has a plunge attack, meaning that when you're gliding around the air and when you press your left click or the attack button, he's going to come skyrocketing down and hit whoever's on the bottom. And also guys, when you level up his skills, all of his hits are going to be dealing a little bit more damage. His talent level up material is going to be resistance, so you guys will need those in order to level up his skills. Along with that, once you guys hit talent level 6 and you guys are looking to increase them to talent level 7 and above, you guys are going to need the plumes from Storm Terror. Along with those, you guys will need the Sergeant's Insignias too. Diluc's second skill is his active E skill named Searing Onslaught. This skill is insane because it does pyro damage on each hit. The skill can be used 3 times consecutively, but if it is not cast again within a short period, it's going to go on cooldown. This skill is the bread and butter of Diluc's kit. This is what makes him so damn good. The skill is on extremely short cooldown and it does a ton of damage. Because of how spammable the skill is, Diluc is going to pick up a ton of energy particles, which will allow him to get his ultimate ability that much quicker. As you level up the skill, Diluc gains a lot more damage with each hit. And of course, in terms of the materials required to level up the skill, they are going to be the same as the first skill, and I'm just going to mention this as well too. His ultimate ability is going to require the same materials as the first and second skill to level up. Lastly, we have his elemental burst, Dawn, and I'm sure many of you guys already know this, but his elemental burst is absolutely nuts. When Diluc uses Dawn, he swings his sword and then a big ass fiery phoenix comes flying out. The skill is going to do an initial hit, knocking back enemies and then burning enemies as the phoenix flies. Now, when the phoenix reaches the final point, it's going to explode, dealing more AoE pyro damage. So not only is this skill amazing for its burst damage, but it's the second effect that really makes this crazy good. For the next 8 seconds after Diluc uses his burst, he's going to gain a pyro enchantment that makes all of his attacks pyro. So when you're stacking on stats such as elemental mastery and pyro damage, the damage output that he is able to do is amazing. One last thing about his elemental burst, as you guys are ranking it up and leveling up that skill, he's going to gain more damage on all 3 effects. He's going to be gaining more pyro damage on the initial swing, he's going to be gaining more dot damage, as well as more explosion damage, although the only thing that doesn't affect is the enchantment duration. Alright guys, so we just had a look into Diluc's active talents. Now we're going to be taking a look into his passive talents. His first one is Relentless, and with Relentless, Diluc's charged attack stamina cost is going to be reduced by 50% and its durations increased by 3 seconds. Now, in my opinion, this isn't the best talent just because it's very rare that you use Diluc's charge attack, but if you guys can mention in the comment section below if you guys have some amazing uses for his charge attack, then please let me know, because again, as I've mentioned, I don't think it's the best talent. It's again very rare that I use his charged attack. Now, his second one, Blessing of the Phoenix, this is fucking good, and that's all I have to say about it. The pyro enchantment provided by Dawn is going to last for 4 seconds longer, and not only that, it's going to increase its pyro damage bonus by 20%. So you can already tell that this stacked on with its ultimate, along with more pyro damage from his chalice or goblet spot in his artifacts, he's going to be dishing out a lot of damage. Alright guys, so we just took a look at all of his talents here. Let's take a look into some of what his actual gameplay looks like. So how I typically like to use Diluc is that obviously you want to start off with this elemental skill, which is going to give you particles to build up his ultimates. Now there is a neat little trick that you can do with Diluc, which is going to increase his DPS output, and that is actually called animation canceling. So what I mean by that is that you're actually able to fit in 2 swings of your normal attack in between each time you use his E. So this is what it's going to look like. You will E, do 2 swings, E, do 2 swings, and E again. So a lot of times I don't actually do this just because I like to kind of keep my animation free so I can kind of dodge left or dodge right and just like weave around my enemies. The only time that I really recommend doing that is actually when you use your ultimate ability, because now your auto attacks are going to be fire as well. When done properly, this is what his elemental burst along with animation cancelling looks like. So I'm going to be using his Q, then there'll be 1 swing into 2 swings, then E again into 2 swings, and then E again. And that's how you efficiently max out DPS with Diluc. Moving on, guys, let's talk about weapons. So starting with 3-star weapons, the one that I'm going to recommend is going to be the Debate Club. Why is this good? Because it's going to give attack percentage as its main stat. And not only that, is that its active skill, if you use any elemental skill, normal or charged attack, they're going to do additional 120% attack damage within a small radius on hit. Now, this effect is going to last for 15 seconds, but the damage can only occur once every 3 seconds. So, I have my Debate Club here at Refinement level 5. This is fairly easy to get, just because you're going to be picking up these Debate Clubs just almost everywhere, as well as if you guys are doing gacha, you guys are going to get these as well. Now, in terms of 4 stars, there's going to be 2 weapons that I strongly recommend. The first one is going to be Prototype Aminus. Actually, if anything, this is the best free-to-play weapon for Diluc, as well as the best 4-star weapon for him too. Again, it's amazing because it's going to give a very high attack percentage base stat for him, and very similar to the Debate Club. On normal attacks, charge attacks, attacks have a 50% chance of dealing more damage in a small AoE circle. Now, the damage here can only affect once every 15 seconds, and the main difference between this and the Debate Club is that for the Prototype Aminus here, the effect doesn't linger. The next 4-star weapon that I want to talk about is the Serpent Spine. Now, this is not a free-to-play weapon, just because this weapon here is only unlockable through purchasing the Battle Pass. However, it is a very good weapon. It is good because you're getting crit rate as a base stat, and the effect is that every 4 seconds the character's on the field, they're going to be dealing 6% more damage, but they also end up taking 3% more damage as well. So this is going to stack up a maximum of 5 times, so on Refinement level 1 is going to be doing 30% damage. However, if the character leaves the field, it's only going to be reducing its stack by 1 when the character takes damage. So this is pretty amazing. However, between the 2 4-star weapons, again, I definitely recommend the Prototype Aminus, just because this weapon here is very easy to get, and as you're playing through the game, these are actually farmable as well. So the longer you play, eventually, if RNG and luck is on your side, then you're going to end up getting this to max Refinement level 5. So for 5-star weapons, there's really only 2 options. You're either looking at Skyward Pride or Wolf's Gravestone. So now, Skyward Pride is decent. The only downside about Skyward Pride is that the base stat is energy recharge, which is good because it does help Diluc get his ultimate up quicker. However, his ultimate doesn't use that much energy in the first place, so I find this actually not that great of an option. If I were to choose between either this or the Prototype Aminus, I'm actually just going to stick with the Prototype Aminus. Although keep in mind that the Skyward Pride does have a very high base attack when it is maxed out. In terms of the effect, it's going to increase all damage by 8%, and after using any skill, an elemental burst, normal attack, or charged attack, is going to create a vacuum blade that does 80% of attack as damage to enemies along its path. This is going to last for 20 seconds, or in this case, also 8 vacuum blades. The other 5-star weapon, this is probably hands down the best weapon for Diluc. If you can't get this, then again, it's going to be that Prototype Aminus. This is amazing because it gives so much damage to him. It has a high base attack, as well as the main stat is going to be straight up attack percentage. Now, in terms of this effect, it's going to increase attack by 20%, and on hit against enemies with less than 30%, is going to increase all party members' attack by 40% for 12 seconds. Keep in mind that this can only occur once every 30 seconds. Now, Do you need refinement levels on this? No, you don't. Anything above 1 is pretty unnecessary unless you get extremely lucky with gacha, or if you're just a big ass whale, then yeah, then obviously you want to go for those refinement ranks. But 1 is already king of the hill. It's so good. Now, let's go ahead and let's talk about Constellations. Now, keep in mind, this is something that I really didn't want to cover just because it's very unrealistic that most people are even ever going to get 1 or 2 Constellations for Diluc. And ultimately, when you're looking at Constellation 5 or Constellation 6, it's ridiculous. Unless you're spending like tens of thousands of dollars, you're not going to unlock those constellations. I am going to say that I did get extremely lucky with Diluc pulls, and I was actually lucky enough to have him at Constellation 2, but keep this in mind, Diluc at Constellation 0 is fucking amazing already. He doesn't really need any constellations for him to be great. So the first constellation that we have is Conviction. Diluc is going to be dealing 15% more damage to enemies whose HP is above 50%. The second constellation, Searing Ember, when Diluc takes damage, his attack increases by 10% and his attack speed by 5%. Now, this lasts for 10 seconds and the effect can stack up to a maximum of 3 times, and it can only occur once every 1.5 seconds. Now, his third constellation, this is going to be very simple. It just increases his Searing Onslaught scale by 3. Nothing amazing. Constellation 4, this is where things get a little different for Diluc. Casting Searing Onslaught in sequence greatly increases the damage dealt. So when you're at Constellation 4, you don't want to be using animation canceling anymore. Pretty much, you just want to be spamming Searing Onslaught. Now, Constellation 5, it increases the level of Dawn. And Constellation 6, this is where it pretty much changes Diluc completely. Now, after casting Searing Onslaught, the next 2 normal attacks within the next 6 seconds will have their damage and attack speed increased by 30%. Additionally, Searing Onslaught will not interrupt the normal attack combo. So what this means is that you're going back to the animation canceling. You're going to be using Searing Onslaught once, 2 normal attacks, Searing Onslaught, 2 normal attacks, Searing Onslaught, 2 normal attacks. And this is just going to be a crazy amount of damage for Diluc. Again, with Constellations, they're very unnecessary. Diluc is great at Constellation 0. And for anyone that's looking to pull Constellation 6 Diluc, I'm completely against that, unless you're like the CEO of Tesla, right? Unless you're like Elon Musk and you have a ton of income that you just want to throw down the drain. The next section that I'm talking about here is going to be artifacts. So this is how my Diluc is built at the moment. Right now he's on the 4-piece Crimson Witch of Flames, and ultimately this is the late game, end game build that you want with him. Now your substats priority is going to be crit damage, crit rate, along with attack percentage. Energy recharge as well as elemental mastery are nice too if you aren't lucky enough to get the 3 rolls. Now, my first equipment here, flat HP, you can see that I have attack percentage. HP percentage is pretty meh. This would have been nice if I got lucky enough and the rolls went to crit damage, and elemental mastery is decent as well. Now, this is not too bad. I have elemental mastery, crit rate, crit damage, so as long as I have 3 of the 5, that's really all I care about. The third artifact here, the chalice spot, or the hourglass spot, this is pretty damn important because this is where the main stat really matters. Now, the main stat you're looking for is going to be attack percentage. And this doesn't matter if you're looking at other sets too. You always want attack percentage in this spot for Diluc. Now, this artifact could get a little bit better for me. I wasn't unlucky enough to find one that did have crit rates or crit damage or even elemental mastery, but instead, this one's pretty ass. It only has energy recharge. Now, for the chalice spot, I have been farming the AR45 dungeon, that one domain, so many times trying to get a 5-star legendary goblet for pyro damage, but I've been extremely lucky. Like, you guys can, I'm just going to show you guys. I got screwed over. Like, it's just like I've been getting a Nemo, attack, elemental mastery, cryo, attack, defense, attack, defense, attack, attack. I just haven't been lucky with that. But anyways, yeah, so this one's decent. It's a 4-star. The main stat that's important is going to be pyro damage bonus. You're going to be wanting energy recharge, which is okay, crit rate, which is good. And I just wasn't lucky enough to find one that did have better substats than this. So I did, however, get an attack percentage goblet. The substats on this is amazing. Like, it's giving me 3.5% crit rate, 23.3% crit damage, but the only downside of this is that it is attack percentage. Now, I swapped between the two artifacts here, and ultimately I found that just 34% pyro damage bonus, that actually deals a lot more damage than what I gained from a 46.6% attack and 23.3% crit damage. The last spot that you want, now this is where I mentioned earlier about where, because of Diluc's high base crit rates, you can actually run a crit damage artifact on this without sacrificing too much crit rate. And this one here, one of my best artifacts, it's going to give me 14% crit rate, 9% energy recharge, and 4% attack percentage. Now, I do swap in between two. You can either run a crit rates helm here, especially if you don't have enough crit rates and you find that you're not really critting too much, then you can definitely run this. Just make sure that it does have the right substats such as crit damage, attack percentage, as well as elemental mastery or energy recharge. Now, energy recharge is one of the stats that's often looked past for Diluc. Not a lot of people like it. However, I do appreciate energy recharge a lot more now, because it is one of those stats where it just allows Diluc to get his ultimate damage quicker, and pretty much he's never going to be doing normal attacks. He's always just going to be using pyro attacks because of how fast he can get his ult back up. Now, what I'm showing here, this is the late game build for Diluc. You guys can start off with a gladiator set. I'm going to just use Jean as an example. She is on a gladiator set, so again, you just want substats that do have crit damage, crit rate, attack percentage, energy recharge, and element masteries. Those ones are going to be big ones, and until you're on the Crimson Witch of Flame set, you can actually just run all three attack percentage on the hourglass, on the goblet, as well as the crown. So that is completely fine. Gladiator is the second best set that you can get because it is fairly easy to pick up. Now, I'm not going to recommend farming the Witch Heart's Flame set or the Crimson Witch of Flame set until you are AR45, because once you're AR45 and you start running those domains, anytime you clear that domain, you're guaranteed a legendary artifact. So why waste your resin farming that when you can wait until you're AR45 and then you start farming it, and then that's going to guarantee you at least a 5-star artifact. Now, if you're not at the point where you can even get gladiator pieces, then I'm just going to recommend running Berserker. These are the 3-star, 4-star artifacts that you get just from opening chests and killing world monsters. But the focus there is that you want pretty much its attack percentage on all 3 of the slots, and that is completely fine until you get to Gladiator, and then from Gladiator, that's when you go up to Crimson Witch of Flames. So we talk about Crimson Witch of Flames being the best set bonus for Diluc, but why is that so? Well, it's pretty self-explanatory, really. Just look at the 2-piece set bonus. You're automatically going to get 15% more pyro damage, but it's the 4-piece which makes it absolutely crazy, because just reading it, it increases overloaded and burning damage by 40%, but it also increases vaporized and melt damage by 15%. And the third effect here is that when you use an elemental skill, it increases the 2-piece set effects by 50% for 10 seconds, and this stacks up to 3 times. And because Diluc's E ability does have 3 activations, you're going to get max stacks on this, and then you're going to be getting that much more pyro damage bonus. Now, the vaporize and melt damage, as well as the overload and burning damage increase, that's going to be absolutely amazing too. It's going to fit really well with certain team comps, which I'm going to be covering right now. Before I talk about which characters you want to put in a team with Diluc, I want to talk about the different elemental reactions with Pyro. So there are 3 main DPS elemental reactions with Pyro right now. The first one is Vaporize, which is Pyro meeting Hydro. Vaporize is going to do 1.5 times more damage. The second one that we have is Melt, which is Pyro meeting Cryo, and that does twice as much damage. Lastly, when Pyro meets Electro, Overload will occur, and that does AoE Pyro damage. With all that being said, let's get into the team building. When I'm building a team with Diluc in it, I like to include either a Hydro character or a Cryo character for the elemental reaction of Vaporize or Melt. In my opinion, these are the 2 best elemental reactions, and they are a far better choice than Overload. Personally, I like Vaporize a lot more because Vaporize is a lot easier to apply than Melt, especially if you have characters like Mona and Xingqiu. If you don't have either one of those, Barbara is a great addition because she is extremely accessible and her water shield is amazing. However, on the other hand, if you have characters such as Chi-Chi or Chongyun for Cryo, they can be a fantastic choice instead, and if you have neither one of those, then Kaya will be fine. And not to mention that now with patch 1.1, they have added in Diona, which is going to be a Cryo healer, and she's a fantastic addition to become a support for Diluc as well. So now that we have Diluc and a Hydro or Cryo character on the team, I like to add in an Anemo character due to the fact that you can put the Fair Distant artifact set on them. When you use a swirl ability, this set will actually decrease the opponent's elemental res of whichever element you fuse it with. And typically, the last bot on the team is going to be a healer. Also, because in patch 1.1, they increased the amount of environmental burning damage, so this means that Diluc is pretty much going to end up killing himself if there's no sustain on the team. For most people, Barbara or Diona now is going to be the go-to. If you have Jean or Chi-Chi, these are both fantastic options for those who have them. One last tip: when I'm building a proper team surrounding Diluc, I like to include a catalyst character, and this is solely because of this one weapon. This is easily the best 3-star weapon in the game. The effect of this is incredible, and no matter where you are, which stage of the game you're in, this can be beneficial to add onto any team. So with everything that I've just said previously, let's go ahead and take a look into some team compositions. So the first team that I'm showing here is a team that I use on the daily. This is a team that's fantastic for open world stuff. Fenty here is going to be on the Fair Distance set to help me reduce Pyro Res. Mona is there for Vaporize and to buff my Diluc with the 3-star weapon that I showed you guys earlier. Jean is there as my healer, and she is also there to gain the double animal buff. Impetuous Winds. So this is going to decrease my stamina consumption by 15% and increase my movement speed by 10%, and it also shortens my skill cooldown by 5%. The second team here I have is going to be the complete free-to-play team, minus, obviously, Diluc. For those who somehow managed to pull Diluc but did not pull any other 4-star characters, this is going to be one of the best builds and team compositions that you can use. So you have the Wind Traveler. You're going to be putting him on the Fair Distance sets just to reduce Pyro Res, Barbara for healing, Vaporize reactions, and also the attack buff from her weapon. Then you have Shanling as a secondary DPS, but she is there to buff Diluc's damage through the elemental resonance buff of having 2 pyro characters. This is going to be called Fervent Flames, affected by Cryo for 40% less time, and the most important point, it's going to increase attack by 25%. Now, if you're using this team to explore the world and you need a bow character instead, you can easily sub out Shanling for Fischl or Ember. So Fischl is great right now too, just because she's going to be a free character that you'll be able to get during the last phase of this current Meteorite event. The last 2 teams that I'm showing are mainly going to be your big damage flex teams. These are the teams that you want to use to one-shot bosses or kill a boss through one particular DPS window or phase. This was the team that I used to kill Storm Terror in one go. Sucrose is there for the Fair Distance set, as well as her weapon to buff up my Diluc. Kaya is there for his ultimate ability, his Ice Shield, which is going to allow me to proc Melt. And of course, everyone knows about Bennett by now. He is here to give my team the double pyro buff, along with buffing up Diluc's damage through his ultimate ability, which is going to be called Fantastic Voyage. So Fantastic Voyage, pretty much Bennett here, he creates an inspirational field that's right beneath him. The gist of it is that anyone that stands in this field, they're going to be gaining attack damage based off of Bennett's base attack. So it is important that you give Bennett here a very strong weapon, just so that he's going to have a higher base attack, so that he's going to be granting more attack damage for his teammates. In this case, the Diluc is just going to hit that much harder. Another thing with Bennett too is that you want him on the Noblesse Oblige set, just so that his 4-piece set bonus, when he uses an elemental burst, is going to increase all party members' attack by 20% for 12 seconds. The last team that I have here is my overall best burst DPS team. So the main difference between this team and the previous team is that I'm now running Mona instead of Kaya. So Mona's is going to give me that Hydro trigger, but then remember how Melt does more damage than Vaporize, but Mona does have a talent, her last skill, her ultimate skill, which is going to grant damage bonus to anyone that hits it. And not only that, I was fortunate enough to gain Constellation 1 with Mona, so this is going to increase my Vaporize damage by 15%. So overall, Mona does give me a little bit of an edge versus a Melt reaction. Alright guys, so the last thing that I'm going to do here is going to be just explaining how everything works together. So I'm going to take this clip for example, and then I'm going to walk you guys through and explain everything that I'm doing here. So I'm starting off using Bennett's ult. Bennett's ult's going to create that inspirational field, which is going to give my Diluc more damage. I'm swapping to Diluc here to break down the core just so that I can stun the plants. So keep in mind here, I'm swapping to Sucrose because now that Pyro is afflicted on the Cryo boss, Sucrose is going to go ahead and use her E ability to proc her for a distance set bonus, which is going to lower the plant's Pyro resistance. After that, I'm going to swap to Mona. Mona is going to use her ultimate ability here, and then she's also going to trigger Vaporize, but she's going to have to attack twice. So you can see that right now the plant already has Vaporize on it, or in this case the plant already has Pyro on it, so I'll need to attack once more to proc Hydro. There it is, and then now the Hydro is procced, I can switch to my Diluc and go for his ultimate ability to proc as much damage as I can. Okay guys, so in the last clip, my Mona was on the Noblesse Oblige set as well. She had that 3-star book, which is going to give my Diluc a lot more damage once I swap to him. And again, that 3-star book, I've talked about it so many times. It is such an amazing 3-star weapon. So there you have it guys. This has been my complete guide on Diluc as well as my DPS showcase on him. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, but god, like I did not expect this video to go over 30 minutes. I originally thought that this was going to be like a 10-minute video, but as I kept on making it, there was just more and more stuff that I wanted to cover, and I wanted to make sure that I get every little detail. I'm sure I've also missed a few things, but for those of you who stuck it out to the end, thank you very much for watching, and again, please consider subscribing as I will be making more content for Genshin Impact in the future. Until then, I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out.